Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part number 51 of this magnificent book, The Way to the Quran by Khurram Murad. And I have most certainly learnt a great deal as a nice revision of this book that I read many years ago. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the author abundantly. Ameen. Our thanks also go to the Pretoria North Muslim Educational Institute for giving out free copies of this book that has come into my hands on the occasion of the inauguration of the Masjid-Sulaiman, wonderful masjid open in Pretoria North, South Africa. And we echo their du'as, which is we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this effort and that He makes it a means of guidance and ithali thawab for all those who have passed on. Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, the viewer, for watching and listening to this. Ameen. Right, so now thanks also go not only to the Pretoria North Muslim Educational Institute and Masjid-Sulaiman, but also to the Islamic Foundation from Leicestershire, United Kingdom, and brother Haris Ahmed, who has given me permission to read this book and share it with you, so that the knowledge thereby we in South Africa can alhamdulillah benefit, we on the African continent can benefit, and globally the Muslims can benefit, and the non-Muslims who are curious about Islam can also benefit thereby. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Right, so now we are looking at the categories of understanding the Quran. There are two ways of understanding the Quran, and they are slightly difficult words. I will try and do that. Broadly speaking, we may divide the study of the Quran into two categories. One is called tadhakkur, and the other one is called tadabbur. After the Quranic verse, and it says in Surah Sad, chapter number 38, verse number 29, that men may ponder over the Quran, which the word pondering is called yaddabaru. Yaddabaru. Li yaddabaru. Ponder its revelations and may take them to heart. When you take them to heart, it's called li yatadhakkara. Tadhakkara. Right? So there's two levels, and the best way I can explain it is as follows. One is called tadhakkur, and the other one is called tadabbur. And the best way I can explain, this is junior study and this is advanced. So this is simple studying or understanding of the Quran, and if you want to go to more advanced level, this is a more advanced level, right? This is standard grade, this is higher grade. This is primary school, this is high school or college or university level. This is more advanced. This is basic, right? So that's the simplest way that I can understand or explain these two difficult concepts. But let's see what Khurram Murad, the way he is explaining these two concepts, right? So let's go to the first concept, which is known as tadhakkur. Tadhakkur is used extensively in the Quran, has been translated variously as receiving admonition, or getting some advice, or remembering, or taking heed, or taking to heart. It can therefore be taken to signify the process whereby you can try to grasp the general message, the overall message of the Quran and teaching being conveyed by the Quran, to find out what they mean for you and what demands they are making upon you, to take them to heart and to try forth corresponding responses of the heart, mind, body and soul, and your attitude to have the will to act in accordance with whatever you find in the Quran, and finally to determine what message you have to deliver to your fellow human beings. So tadhakkur is a category of understanding which in its essential nature should not require any sophisticated tools of scholarship. You don't have to. So the first one, tadhakkur, you don't have to be a scholar of Islam. You don't have to be a professor. This is for people like you and me, right? You may be more advanced than me, but I regard myself as very junior. I'm in primary school, right? So tadhakkur is for those of us with basic understanding. We don't have to be scholars. Whereas this one here is more advanced academic scholarship, right? Standard grade, higher grade. Primary school, high school, right? So here's what Khurram Murad is explaining very beautifully, that tadhakkur is a category of understanding which should not require any sophisticated tools of scholarship. You may not know the meaning of every word. You may not be competent enough to explore the full meaning of all the important and key words, and you may not even understand every verse, but the general overall message, especially the message for you how to live your life, should come out clearly and radiantly as you go through the Quran. After all, the people who understood the Quran most and benefited from it the greatest were the first hearers of the Quran. There were city merchants, there were farmers, there were Sahaba, there were city merchants, there were farmers, there were shepherds, they used to ride camels, and there were nomads, there were Bedouins living in the desert. They did not have libraries there, they did not have CNA bookshops there, they did not have shopping malls there, they did not have internet access or Google, they had nothing of those type of things, right? They did not have at their elbows lexicons or tafsir books or treaties or big dictionaries at this style. They did not have diction or cadence or rhetoric, nor do they possess all the knowledge of philosophy, of history, of geography, of archaeology, of anthropology, or of all the social and physical sciences. These were not available to them. Yet they were the most successful people in understanding the Quran. They knew the Quran backwards, right? They did not go deeply into, how did the bee build the honeycomb? The bee got 6 sides, it's got a hexagonal structure, it is a mathematical brilliance. We only found those things out today. They did not know all of those things, but they were top. Why? Because the spirituality was very deep. So they were the most successful in understanding the Quran, for they took the message of the Quran to their heart and began to live it immediately. Hence, this category of understanding ought to be and is available to every person who fulfills the necessary condition for it in this respect. The degree and intensity of what he receives will depend on his personal effort and capacity. Of course, tools of scholarship may add new dimensions, lend added weight, and give new insights to this process, but they are not a must. It is in the sense of tadhakkur that the Quran categorically states that it is easy to understand. You see, so the Quran is easy to understand. It is available to every sincere inquirer if he only comprehends what he is reading and ponders over it. It is to this tadakkur that the Quran invites everyone who can hear, everyone who can see, and everyone who can think to be guided by it. And let's we narrate 3 or 4 verses from the Quran to tell us that, it is hopeful. Come to the Quran. It is indeed easy to understand. You don't have to be a top scholar. It is for everybody, right? Chapter 54, Surah Al-Qamar, verse number 17. Indeed, we have made this Quran easy for understanding and remembering the dhikr. Is there any then that will take it to heart? Mudakkir. In chapter 44, Surah Al-Dukhan, verse 58, we read, Indeed, we have made it, the Quran, easy to understand by your tongue, O Prophet, so that men may take it to heart. Yatadakkarun. And in chapter 39, Surah Az-Zumar, verse number 27, we read, Indeed, we have made propounded unto men all kinds of parables in this Quran, so that they might understand. Yatadakkarun. And in chapter 50, Surah Kaf, verse number 37, we read, In this there is indeed a reminder, a dhikr, for everyone who has a heart or will give ear while he is a witness, present with his mind. And then, so further on we read that tadakkur is not some lower category of understanding, but it is the basic essential purpose of the Quran. So let's look at the second category, which is known as tadabbur. Tadabbur is the other category of understanding. It signifies that you try to find the full meaning of every word. Ayah, full meaning of every ayah, full meaning of every surah, that you explore the full meaning behind those words, the metaphors, the parables, that you discover the textual cohesion and underlying unity, that you determine the central idea, you delve into the lexical intricacies, the tanzil, the historical background, and that you undertake a comparative study of different types of tafsir. You're going deep now into the Quran. Then that you discover all the implications for the relationship between man and God, his fellow human beings, his own self and the world around him, that you derive from it laws and morals for individuals and society, rules for the state and economy, principles for history and philosophy, and implications for the current level of human knowledge. Such a study would require a greater and deeper knowledge of the various ulum al-Quran, the Quranic disciplines or the sciences of the Quran, depending on your various goals and aims, right? So for myself, I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about you, my dear viewer. For myself, I have confined myself to this first level here. I am not one of those high academic scholars who will go deep into the Quran. May Allah subhanahu forgive me and accept my little attempt in what I am doing at this first level. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.